Many of us have been admonished or advised from time to time to think carefully about a problem or a decision, and some of us have heard that careful and analytical thinking is called critical thinking. But what is meant by that? Hi, I am Prasad, and in this brief simple video we'll examine with you as to what is this critical thinking all about. Some of us know what critical thinking means, some have a general idea, and some of us would have heard the phrase for the first time. But all of us would have known that critical thinking is important and that it referred to a high order of thinking. But what really is critical thinking? Some people think critical thinking means criticizing someone. It is not criticism. Nor does critical thinking mean arguing or quarreling. To understand what is critical thinking, maybe we should start with the definition. Amongst the many definitions that exist, my favorite one reads, critical thinking means making clear, reasoned judgments. I will repeat. Critical thinking means making clear, reasoned judgments. The key words out here are clear, reasoned, and judgments. I found this to be one of the most apt definitions. It calls on us to be clear in our thinking, reason out issues or problems, and make judgments based on the reasoning. Critical thinking is about how to think and not what to think. I repeat, critical thinking is about how to think and not what to think. It is a way of thinking that can be applied to any situation, decision making, or evaluation of any claim. Most subjects we learn only teach us what to think. There is hardly anyone who teaches us how to think. Why is it important to learn how to think? The single most important reason is, of course, to think for ourselves and not follow someone else's beliefs and dictates blindly. Let's take a look at some of the situations where we have to think for ourselves. What career do we adopt in life? Which job offer should I take up? How do I participate intelligently in group discussions? How to handle questions in personal interviews? On the job, how do we make decisions? What processes do we follow for planning, and so on? There isn't much in life of significance that can be achieved without critical thinking. Let us take one application of critical thinking, decision making, and examine how people apply critical thinking to decision making. I will use a partly fictionalized account of how two engineering students decide to pursue engineering as a career. The two students are Kishore and Sheila. Both Kishore and Sheila are bright students, and both of them get good grades in their exams, and both of them are capable of doing well in competitive entrance exams, and both of them are capable of getting a seat in a good engineering college. Here's what Kishore had to state as his considered reasons for pursuing engineering as a career. My father advised me to check out engineering as a career option, and so I shortlisted it as one of my career choices. My best friends, Arun, Arjun, Vinay, and Subbu, decided to pursue a career in engineering. Moreover, I applied and got admission in the same engineering college as my good friends. And the clinching factor was that my college was just a 6-hour drive from my home, and I could come home every weekend if I wanted to. To summarize, Kishore chose to pursue engineering since his friends chose to pursue it, and he happened to get admission in the same college as them. His father had asked him to consider it as an option, and finally, the additional incentive to take up engineering was that the college was just a short drive away from home. When questioned, Sheila had a surprisingly different perspective and went through a totally different decision-making process before concluding on her choice of careers. What follows is a very brief version of her thinking process. Sheila figured that choosing the right career was very important, as she would be spending the rest of her life working at that career. In order to be happy at a career, she put down 3 criteria against which she would evaluate different career options. The 3 criteria being A. Interest, B. Aptitude, C. Opportunity. She evaluated various career choices against her 3 criteria, and this is how her choice of an engineering career stacked up against this criteria. First criteria, interest. She loved math and physics right through school. She loved working with her hands and liked doing various experiments. She could figure out how things worked starting from science fundamentals. She spoke to a few of her father's friends who were in engineering careers and figured out that she liked what they did on a day-to-day basis. Based on her analysis, Sheila concluded that she did have a strong interest in an engineering career. Her second criteria, aptitude. She scored very high marks consistently in math and physics. Math and physics are applied extensively in engineering. She won many science competitions with the working models, which goes to prove that she is capable of applying science to real life, which is what engineering is all about. Based on this factor, she concluded that she indeed had an aptitude for an engineering career. Third criteria, opportunity. She checked out the entrance exam papers for engineering colleges and figured out that it was easy and she would get admission in a good college. She checked out a couple of job portals to see job openings at various experience levels and saw that there were plenty of jobs for engineers out there. She also noticed that the jobs indeed paid very well. Engineering scored pretty high against the three criteria of interest, aptitude, and opportunity. So Sheila decided to pursue a career in engineering. Of course, in the example, we have shown only how engineering stacked up against the criteria of interest, aptitude, and opportunity. A student is likely to evaluate several career options against these criteria before finalizing the career choice. Who has taken the better decision, Sheila or Kishore? Did either of them apply critical thinking to the decision-making process? Who do you think is more likely to succeed in the career and why? Who has taken the better decision? Did any of them apply critical thinking to the decision-making process? Who do you think is more likely to succeed in the career and why? Why didn't Kishore reason like Sheila? Probably he's just lazy, or maybe he doesn't know how to reason logically. But whatever the reasons, it is important that Kishore learns how to reason logically and think critically if he needs to make decisions that will lead to good outcomes. Imagine Kishore giving these reasons for his career choice in the job interview. And if Sheila also was at the same interview and asked the same question, who do you think will be selected? Educators test your critical thinking skills in various tests such as GRE, GMAT, CAT, etc. Employers also love critical thinkers, and the interview questions are focused on testing your critical thinking skills. So let's come back to our original question. What is critical thinking, and what can you expect to learn in a course on critical thinking? There are three elements in critical thinking. The critical thinking framework, the framework that guides us in examining any issue from different perspectives. Logical reasoning. This is the process of examining and applying rules of logical reasoning to arrive at our conclusions. Thinking standards. What attitude should we uphold while thinking? Let's look at thinking standards first. In general, any thinking we do should have clarity, accuracy, precision, and logic. Let's next look at the critical thinking framework. When evaluating any issue, belief, decision, or making a plan, we need to consider different dimensions and perspectives. For example, the critical thinking framework suggests a process that I will outline now. At the beginning, the framework suggests that we define the problem. What are we trying to solve? Or what is the decision that needs to be taken, or the belief that needs to be evaluated? It then asks us to look for evidence. What is the evidence available in relation to the problem, decision variables, or support of the belief? After having got the evidence, we need to analyze it, take into account all the evidence, analyze it, and see what conclusion it leads to. Assumptions. In the course of analysis, all data may not be available, or it may be reasonable to make some assumptions. What are the assumptions you are making during your analysis? This is very important since the validity and integrity of your analysis depends on the assumptions being true. Solution. What is the solution? What solution does your analysis of evidence lead to? What is the decision, the plan, or your position on the claim or belief? Implications. What are the implications of your decision or plan or belief? You would have noticed that a critical thinking framework guides you in evaluating any problem, decision, or claim systematically from different dimensions and perspectives. Next, let's look at another important element of critical thinking, logical reasoning. When you looked at the framework, you saw that one critical element of thinking critically is analysis. Analysis calls for logical reasoning. In other words, our skill in critical thinking is directly related to our logical reasoning skills. To think critically, we must be able to reason logically. Sound logical reasoning requires knowledge of the three primary types of reasoning, deductive and inductive reasoning, and causal inferences and explanations. Critical thinking also requires us to evaluate the credibility of the information and information source. Often people use rhetoric, which is appeals to emotion, as a means of persuading people, and rhetoric is mistaken for logical reasoning. Hence, we need to learn rhetoric as well in order to become good critical thinkers. In life, we are very often called upon to take decisions or making judgments that have moral implications. We need to learn about moral reasoning and be able to distinguish it from logical reasoning. The skills we need to acquire to become good critical thinkers are knowledge and application of any critical thinking framework, logical reasoning, ability to evaluate the credibility of source and information, knowledge of rhetoric, fallacies, moral reasoning. Above all and all times, we must have clarity in our thinking. Who should learn critical thinking? College students who learn this will have excellent competitive advantage in competitive exams such as GRE, GMAT, CAT. They'll be able to perform better at group discussions and personal interviews. PhD aspirants and students will find critical thinking of invaluable help, as all research is an application of critical thinking to the choice of their thesis. Working professionals will find the training invaluable and highly pertinent for decision making, planning, and also in leading and managing people. High school students can start early and reap rich benefits right through their education and subsequent career. How do you learn critical thinking? You can pick up a book on critical thinking and learn about it on your own. There are videos on YouTube and you could try learning from them. Or of course you could attend a training program conducted by us. For training options on critical thinking from us, please visit criticalthinkingacademy.net or send us an email at contact@criticalthinkingacademy.net. Thank you.